Students, 3B, I really appreciate your assistance today. I am teaching geometry honors during this period, and you have this lovely about 9-minute video. Just a heads up, even though I didn't check your homework today, I'm going to be checking 2 preview videos next class, both preview video 3.5, and then you have tonight's preview video 3.6. Finish the in-class lesson 3.5, but most likely about 90% of you are already going to get sign-offs by the end, because this is honestly one of the easiest lessons of the year. You got a quiz coming up on the 15th, as well as something called an oral exam, which I'll talk about later on the 19th of November. You want to get your reference booklets out and turn to this page. Pause the video just for a moment until you find this in your reference booklet, and then restart the video. All righty, welcome back. There are 3 motions in geometry, 3 motions. And the motion, just take your pencil right here, just draw straight to the right, write the word slide. If we slide something left to right, the fancy word for that is translation. Then imagine if you had a mirror and you simply flip over. That is called a reflection. Imagine one of these corners being anchored, and then you simply rotate or turn around. That is rotation, translation, reflection, rotation. And what the main concept is, if you take any triangle and you send it to any one of these 3 motions, the 3 motions again, translation, reflection, rotation, your first triangle and the second image are congruent. So these motions create congruent triangles, which comes right down here. Now, if triangles are congruent, all their parts are congruent. We did this in the video. Go ahead and put two hands up, fingers together. Yeah, I actually want you to do that. 2 hands up, fingers together. Stay whole equal. And then spread your fingers, say parts equal. So if the whole hands are equal, then every individual finger, if you will, is equal. And in geometry, if the whole triangle's equal, the individual parts, there's a fancier name for that, and that is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. I'll explain that in just a moment. The acronym that's used that you'll see on Alex is CPCTC. So I'll show you what I mean. Corresponding parts. That means if these triangles are equal, then this angle W is congruent to angle E. And this side, WX, is congruent to this side, E to Y, etc. So if the whole triangle is equal, the parts are equal. And the motion from left to right, you need to identify. You see the one sweep here, and then the one sweep here. This was a counterclockwise rotation to match up those W's. Just write the word rotation, that's sufficient. All right, leave your reference booklet where you can see it. Go to the front of today's lesson. Right here. So we're going to do these 3 together. And so taking a look at your left triangle to your right triangle, you ask yourself what the motion is. And imagine if that was a Valentine and you can fold it. Do you see how double sweep matches with double sweep? Single with single, triple with triple. If you can fold the image and everything matches up, we call that reflection. And then this does count. You have to align these corners. So if I say Z, Y, T, that's the left triangle. Z is a triple sweep. You must match it with the other triple sweep, which would be R. Y, double sweep, match it with your double sweep. T is single, match it with single. That's the corresponding parts. You have to align those vertices. Let's do two more. Now this one looks like a reflection, but be very careful. If you were to fold this, do you see how those corners would not match single to double? So it's not a reflection. Instead, this single sweep gets rotated down. This is a rotation. I'd like you to shade, just lightly shade the triangle TYS, just lightly shade it. Okay, warning, I'm not always going to go left to right. Here we're going top to bottom, so let's align our vertices. T in that green triangle is single sweep. So the single sweep and the other triangle is S. Y is your triple sweep. Its matching is U. And then S in your, that is a double sweep, matches here, double sweep T. Your motion here is a slide, which is translation. And now you have to do a little bit like a game of Clue by process of elimination, figuring out what the missing pieces are. So we have a Y and a Z. We have a Y and a Z. So you can see we're working in the left. So our missing point, therefore, is X. Now we want to align stuff up. So we're left to right. Our Y is single sweep. The match on the other side is Z. X is double sweep, and that matches with J. And then Z in the left is triple, and its match is I. So sometimes you need to do a little process of elimination. So you can see it's all about things being congruent, things being congruent. So the main question we're asking ourselves is, how do you know when things are congruent? So far, you only have two sources of congruency so far. If it's marked congruent, it's congruent. And this entire class here is what I have titled freebies. These are things that are congruent, but never marked. Things that are congruent, but never marked. Freebies are things that are congruent, but never marked. So when you find them, you need to mark them. I'll do these three with you. One is vertical angles. Let's sweep those. Hatch mark them, and for every pair of congruent freebies, I want you to put one A for angles or one S for side. So that's a pair of angles. A reflexive side is a side that's shared like an apartment wall. You want to go over that, hatch mark it, and that's one S for a pair of sides. Technically, there's two there. Now this one on the right, you should immediately stretch out those parallel lines. Whenever you see them, stretch them out. Let's sweep these angles right there, L and K. When you have parallel lines, one of your freebies, of course, besides alternate interior angles, are these guys, which are corresponding. So that's one pair of A's. And you have another pair on the other side. Now I'd like you to just trace the triangle HLI, just trace it, HLI, physically trace it. Now trace the triangle HKJ. You see that those triangles, the two of them, they share H. H is called a reflexive angle, just like the shared side is reflexive side. Okay, so we're going to go through these and we're going to mark the things that are already congruent, and then we're going to mark our freebies and put an S for sides, A for angles. Let's do this together. Ready? So hatch mark, hatch mark. We have a pair of sides. That's our pre-marked. Then we have our vertical angles. It's very important you just don't mark everything congruent. You're only marking pre-marked and freebies. That's it. Let's go to this one. Hatch mark, hatch mark. We have a pair of sides. Here then we have also another pair of reflexive sides. And then leave it alone. Don't just mark everything congruent. Stretch out those parallel lines right off the bat. M and S, corresponding angles. R and L, corresponding angles. Then, of course, the two triangles share angle Q, which is a reflexive angle. So these were corresponding. That's corresponding. And then A is reflexive. Last one, go over your pre-marked. That's a pair of angles. And you have a reflexive side. This is freakishly similar to page 7 in today's lesson. That's about as hard as it's going to get today. Page 8, please show your substitute all your work before you check page 8. Thanks, 3B. I appreciate your attentiveness and cooperation with the sub. Dr. Shim's geometry students, I'm sure, will be grateful to have me keeping them moving forward rather than just doing busy work. And I appreciate you making that possible. Thanks, students.